taking a child and putting them in a situation and then photographing them in that situation and then spreading it across all media channels is bad. Hi everybody, today is a bit of an impromptu video, as I sometimes do on the weekdays, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video on this topic, but I felt after some reflection that it was important. The topic is what a lot of people are talking about right now, the Balenciaga stuff that's been happening. I don't want to call it a scandal because I wouldn't even call it a scandal. I would call it a very purposeful act of disregard for children's safety and well-being. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and honestly, if you're watching this video, I feel like you probably do, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, Balenciaga recently released several media images, like images made for media, fashion images, featuring children and some not children-friendly or children-safe paraphernalia. I'm not going to show you any pictures because I don't feel that it is right to continue to share the pictures of essentially child exploitation, but you can Google it. I'm sure it'll come up because everybody's talking about it and people are sharing the images. But very not safe for children paraphernalia. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about exploitation, child exploitation in media in general and in fashion. Now, I have actually some experience in not the modeling industry, a little bit of experience in the modeling industry, but primarily in the acting industry. I did not start as a child, I did start as an adult, but I do have a lot of experience working with and auditioning with child actors. And there are two different kinds of child actors that I've really seen that I've interacted with. And there's the great kind, which are, positive and happy and excited to be there. They really enjoy what they're doing. And there are the kind that are tired and worn and not thrilled about being there, but doing a job, and doing a job in the way that like an adult drudges through something that they don't enjoy. But this is a child. That's just a little bit of a background of like how children sometimes behave in the industry. They either enjoy it or they really, really don't. And the thing about children in media at all is that children can't consent to be in anything. It is the adults or their guardians who do the consenting for them, basically. A child can't say yes legally to anything because they're children. So adults do it for them. But that also means that children aren't listened to necessarily when they say no, or their wants or needs might be ignored or not listened to, especially if a child is uncomfortable. Now, what does this mean about Balenciaga's nonsense? Well, is it possible that the children in these photo shoots didn't necessarily know what was going on, didn't necessarily know what they were being posed in? Yes, it is possible. I mean, they were children. I don't know how old they were, but they skewed to like 10, 12, 8, like ages are kind of irrelevant at this point because it's still a child. And so it's entirely possible that the children themselves didn't know that they were in a situation that honestly looked very unsafe. They still were being exploited, even if they were having a good time, which they didn't look like they were having a good time, but that is something that can happen in the acting and modeling industry. You're like told to look sad, so they look sad. Or they're told to look serious, so they look serious. On that note, actually, also about children, there are basically two ways for a child to cry if they need to cry on command. One is they are really good at it and they can just like conjure up the tears, sad feelings. They think about it. That's how I do it. Or they're told something happened to their dog or their toys, and then they cry because they're genuinely upset. Just a little trick. They don't do that with babies. Babies, you cry and then the baby cries because, babies do that. But children are older, kind of smarter. So this is kind of a hard topic to talk about. I didn't expect it to be as difficult as it is. I expected it to be difficult, but I'm also meandering, so sorry about that, I guess. But so a child might not necessarily know that they are in an unsafe situation. That does not mean that they're not being exploited, and that does not mean that they are not being used for not good things, right? So if you have a kid who's, having a good time playing in a pool in their bathing suit, like, they're having a good time. If you take pictures of that child and put them on the internet for strangers to like oogle at, that's bad, you know? That's kind of not good. And there's a lot of stuff in the media now, especially like influencer parents who really put their children in front of the camera a lot. And there's a difference between a kid like having a good time and the parents like sharing a video and the parents like always sticking the camera in the kid's face and like documenting every aspect of them. And especially in situations where the child is in more vulnerable situations, right? So like if they are in a state of undress, like a bathing suit or something, which is technically innocent, but there are people who are going to take advantage of the fact that they have access to that material in those media. So taking a child, right, and happy or sad, even a happy kid, taking a happy kid and putting them in a situation with adult paraphernalia. You know, there was a lot of like books and literature and imagery that were definitely not children appropriate in this situation. Taking a child and putting them in a situation and then photographing them in that situation and then spreading it across all media channels is bad, right? That is child exploitation. And okay, you didn't have them like we're talking about levels of bad things, and it's some things are horrifically terrible, and there are some things that are still terrible, and one thing can often easily lead to another thing, right? If a kid is told that this stuff is fine and good for them to be around, are they going to then make a connection later that it is good to be around in an even more unsafe situation, right? Who is letting this child be in these situations? Who is consenting to allow this child to be in situations? I mean, obviously, the guardians are at fault. Were they informed necessarily? Maybe not. There's often not communication between the director of something or the producer of something and the person doing the thing or the guardian of the child. Like sometimes like you don't know what's happening. You don't know what you got signed up for. Like you're just not informed. And there might be contracts involved. There might be money involved. Obviously, like there's reasons that people make bad choices. That doesn't mean the choices aren't bad, and that doesn't mean the choices aren't wrong, especially when a kid is concerned. Yeah. For instance, some of you might know of this book that just came out recently by Jeanette McGurdy. If you haven't, she is a child actor, or was a child actor, who's most famous for doing the show iCarly. And she recently came out with a book called "I'm Glad My Mother Died." And I will link that book for you down below. It is a difficult read. She's a very good writer, but it's a difficult read. It talks about how she, as a child, was horrifically exploited on the set of iCarly, how she was treated terribly by all the adults who worked there, how her mother abused her, basically. Like it's a really tough, it's a tough read. And she is one of many, many, many. And she happened to be in a position where she was able to talk about it because she didn't sign contracts and didn't sign NDAs and didn't take hush money, basically. And that's what it comes down to too. Like people having power over other people, like children, like the guardians of children, is bad. It's bad. It's bad. So that is a little bit of backstory what happened. That's a little bit of backstory about my opinions about what happened. But here's the thing too. Balenciaga released apologies. Like that's stupid. It's crap. You know, it's please, what do you released apologies for what? The director of the shoot said they said that the director of the shoot acted completely by himself alone and had nothing to do and no input with it. Do you know how many people have to say yes for anything in media to take place, much less big media? Like Balenciaga is a huge company, a huge corporation. Do you know how many people had to say yes to this idea for it to actually take place? They had to approve the costumes, they had to approve the set, they had to approve all of the props, they had to approve all of the fashion, they had to approve each child who auditioned for the role. They had to, like, everybody who was involved in this production had to at some point say yes. They had to. It wouldn't have taken place. It wouldn't have occurred if there were people on the totem pole before it made it into media saying no. Like there are people who have veto power in stuff like this. None of them said no because it occurred. Nobody in media channels said that this was a terrible idea because they ran it all. Like, everybody involved in this is guilty. That's why I don't call it even a scandal, because like a scandal is often something that's like incidental to something else bad that happened, or like this was purposeful. Balenciaga made a lot of decisions for this to occur, and I don't know what they were expecting. I think that they were expecting it to become a scandal. I think that they were expecting this. I think that they were expecting this. I don't think that they were expecting it to blow up in the way that it did. I think that they were like maybe going for like edgy and like different, and didn't take into account that people care about children's well-being, because none of them apparently do. I happen to know somebody who was a child model for Victoria's Secret, and she was 12 to 14. She was doing the preteen teen stuff, and she developed early, and at like 12, 13 was getting very not good attention from people who worked with her in Victoria's Secret and calling them out. Like, I'm just saying the words because it's true. This happened. This occurred. I think that the reaction to what has occurred with Balenciaga is good. I think that the outrage is great. I wish that it hadn't had to take place, but I think the outrage is great. I think that Balenciaga is not responding in a way that they should be responding, which is to fire everybody who said yes to any of this at all. But even more so, I think that Balenciaga, forget Balenciaga, I think that Kering, who owns Balenciaga, needs to take a hard look at Balenciaga as a brand now. I think it's important for them to be like, well, what have we decided to represent with Balenciaga as the brand? And where are we going to go from here? Because there's not a lot of ways to go up. They're kind of digging themselves into this own deeper hole, and I kind of good. I hope that they crash and burn because they deserve it. But what is the next step, right? Kering, who owns Balenciaga, also owns brands like YSL, like Gucci. Do I think that the CEO of Kering necessarily knew what Balenciaga was doing? No, I don't. There doesn't have to be that level of communication for an independently operated brand underneath an umbrella. So like YSL and Gucci don't talk to each other necessarily. YSL and the VVIP of Kering don't necessarily talk. But do I think that Kering, the umbrella that owns Balenciaga, should be taking a good hard look at their future campaigns in general, and certainly the future of what Balenciaga may or may not be? Absolutely yes. There was a lot of people, as I said, who had to say yes to this shoot taking place, and all of them should be fired. All of them shouldn't work again, should not work again in any industry that involves the possibility of kids, because this was terrible. I guess that's kind of really my point in regards to this. I do think that the strong backlash is great. I think that there should be more of it. I think that it should continue to occur, because that's the thing. Like, I don't want this shouldn't die down in another week or two. People are just starting to really talk about it in the last several days, but I don't think this should go away in a month. I don't think that this should go away in 2 months. I think that unless a huge change is made in Balenciaga's staff and creative directors and staff, that this should continue to be talked about. And this should continue to be talked about in other situations as well, in other aspects of media. I do recommend reading Jeanette McDurdy's book. Again, I'll link it down below for you. It's very eye-opening into how children in the media industry are often treated, because again, her case is not unique. It's particularly horrific, but not unique. And I just wanted to say my piece on how not okay this is and continues to be, because this isn't necessarily the first time we've had something like this occur with kids. We certainly have all the many stuff with Dolce & Gabbana, for instance. Dolce & Gabbana is a bad brand. I wish they would stay canceled. I wish that people would stop supporting them. They recently had a resurgence with the Kardashians. Why? There's so many things about the people who currently own and run Dolce & Gabbana that are bad and immoral and terrible, right? So there are a lot of brands that have histories of not great stuff. Okay, I will say that. Like, most companies that rise to power in some capacity have a bloody history of some sort. Louis Vuitton does, Chanel does, like Fendi does, like a lot of brands, not just luxury, but like a lot of brands, Disney, a lot of brands have histories that aren't great. But there's a difference between supporting a brand where they've sort of denounced that history and like made apology statements and have talked about it and have like said that they're going to do better, and then they attempt to do so. And then there are brands that not only sweep it under the rug, but continue to do the bad things. Dolce & Gabbana, for instance. So what's going on with Balenciaga? Are they going to try to sweep this under the rug? It looks like it with the apologies they're issuing. They're trying to desperately cover up the fact that they did this on purpose. This was, this was premeditated. This was purposeful. They're really trying to sweep under that under the rug and like take it back sort of somehow. And as long as the people who currently run Balenciaga are running Balenciaga, I think that Balenciaga needs to go away. I think it shouldn't be supported. I think that none of it should be supported because it's all connected. Like, those people are going to get a paycheck from you if you buy a Balenciaga item right now. Even if you buy it because it's funny, they're still getting their paycheck. They are still profiting off of you or off of other people who don't care that they're supporting people who did this thing. Balenciaga is bad. This has nothing to do with their styles. This has nothing to do with their bags or their clothing and their fashion or their humorous history, honestly. It has nothing to do with that. I'm not even making a statement on my opinion on Balenciaga fashion. I'm making a statement on Balenciaga's choices. Very different things. I know this is sort of a different video from me, certainly for this channel. I do not usually talk about stuff that occurs in politics or anything like that because I don't think that that's what this channel is for. I have my own opinions, but that's not what this channel is for. But this is fashion, and this is something that's very heavily related to, fashion and my topic of channel. I know it's not necessarily coherent. We'll see how this comes together when I edit it and put it up. But it is a lot of stuff that I wanted to be said, especially adding the perspective of somebody who has worked with kids in the entertainment industry and has seen how tired some of them are. And there needs to be more discussion, certainly, about this now. I think Jeanette McCurdy's book has helped facilitate some of that. But I think there certainly needs to be more. And I think that this was terrible. So something good should come out of it. Like, if nothing else, people need to be discussing this more and discussing like taking children and putting them into adult spaces. That's what we need to discuss. Taking children and putting them into spaces where they are being depicted as adults, being treated as adults, where their childhood is an aspect of this adult's situation. I think I've talked about this enough. That's all I really have to say. Make of this video what you will. Feel free to add your own opinions in the comments down below. Please be kind. Remember, we are talking about a topic that is quite heavy, I think. And so I don't actually know what kind of discussion is going to take place. I might not be able to answer a lot of comments on this topic. I might not be able to do that. I just wanted to make the video and like kind of state these points. And that's all for now. I'm going to sign off. If you like this video, feel free to like it. I would like more people to see this video, which is kind of why the algorithm would be helpful with a boost if you are interested in sharing my opinion of this topic. But I'm not going to plug myself. Just, thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day. And I hope that some changes are going to be made very soon and very quickly.